It is 6:30, and I'm calling us to order. It is a very special night. And Councilmember Jones, thank you. We have a full dais. Tonight, we have 3 wonderful kids from Bastrop Intermediate. First of all, I'd like to recognize the Bastrop Intermediate principal, Daniel Brown. He's waving in the back. And Leslie Organ is signing at the front of the room. She's the supervisor for the Regional Day School Program for the Deaf. So she's going to sit in the front row, and I'm going to call up the kids, and they're going to sign both the pledges tonight. That means we're going to go a little bit slower, and Ms. Organ is going to be saying the pledge out loud. The kids are a little bit nervous. They would like you to join them, but if you'll make sure you can hear Ms. Organ, she will be leading us for those of us that have our hearing. So the first person I'm going to call up is Precious Diamond Cooper. She is in 5th grade and attends Bastrop Intermediate. She's going to be joined by Hulisher Haywood. He's a little bit nervous. Hulisher's in 6th grade. And Evelyn Marin. And Evelyn is also in 6th grade. So I'm going to give the press an opportunity to scoot over in front of them, because this is a group of kids that we want to see in the paper coming to us soon. If all of you will please rise, and Ms. Organ will lead us in the pledges.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
We need to give them an outstanding round of applause. Thank you. Signing exact English. Thank you very much. Wait. But wait, there's more. Oh.
We love you.
Oh, we love you too. Thank you. Thank you. That is precious. Thank you very, very much. Okay, if you'll remain standing, Reverend Long will lead us in our invocation tonight.
Please join me in prayer. Father God in heaven, as we come before you tonight, we come entering your gates with thanksgiving and your courts with praise. Praising you and thanking you for the opportunity to live, to work, to play, and to pray in Bastrop, Texas. We pray tonight for this city council meeting. We pray for each council person. We pray for our mayor. Lord, we pray for everybody that works for our city manager and secretary. We pray for our Bastrop Police Department. We pray for our fire department and all the first responders. We thank you that they watch for us even when we're asleep. We thank you for the beautiful weather we have in Bastrop. But Lord, we pray for blessings. We ask that you bless our community, bless this meeting. Let it be a peaceful meeting, an orderly meeting led by you, God, that you would be lifted up and we would be reminded that you're Lord of all. And we can rest in the fact that you love us and want the very best for us. And we believe that tonight in Jesus' name. Amen.
You may be seated. Okay, as I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, we have the opportunity to take things a bit out of order. We will be moving to executive session. I'll be moving to item 10A City Council shall convene into closed executive session pursuant to Section 551.074 of the Texas Government Code as per the written request of Steve Adcock to hear his appeal from a disciplinary employment action, termination as Director of Public Safety in accordance with Chapter 7, Section 8 of the City's Personnel Policies Manual. City Council may also convene into closed executive session pursuant to Section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code to confer with the city attorney. It's 6:36 and we are now in executive session. Okay, it's 7:11 and we are back into normal session. There was no action item taken. We'll be returning to the original agenda, and that has us at presentations. Is Bob Long still here, or did he let? Okay, well, bless his heart. All right, the very first proclamation I have is for the National Day of Prayer. This is a joint proclamation that the city is doing with the county. The National Day of Prayer will be May 3rd, 2018. There is going to be a ceremony over at the gazebo at the county courthouse at noon, so I'd encourage everyone to attend. Whereas our forefathers recognized the importance of prayer in building a nation, and whereas in 1775, the First Continental Congress proclaimed a National Day of Prayer, and whereas in 1952, Congress and the President set aside the first Thursday in May to celebrate a National Day of Prayer, and whereas it is a constitutional right for leaders, pastors, and citizens in Bastrop County to gather and lift their voices in prayer for our nation, state, community, leaders, schools, and youth, and whereas it is appropriate to gather to pray and ask God's continued blessing on this nation, and whereas the theme for National Day of Prayer in 2018 is unity, now, therefore, the Bastrop County Commissioners Court and the Bastrop City Council do hereby proclaim May 3rd, 2018 as a day of prayer in our communities and encourages all citizens to gather reverently and pray for our nation. The proclamation's been signed by the judge and all the commissioners and by myself and all of the City Council members, and we look forward to seeing you next Thursday, May 3rd. The next proclamation is if Chief Altgeld will come forward, and Chief Wobus will be presenting this to Chief Wobus, and I'm going to run down there to catch a mic. Chief Wobus. Yes. Oh, and come on, firefighters. If I'm sorry, I would have called your names. I apologize.
Gene, come on up here.
Here, say their names. Say their names.
Assistant Chief Rod Stradling, Susan Long, Aaron Stradling, Chris Spooner, Brianna Barnes, Chris Stone. The short one is Gage Judd. Captain Gilbert Demaville, and while Eugene Pena is not a member of the City of Bastrop Fire Department, he does work for the city in the Parks Department, and he's going through our current recruit academy and a member of Bastrop County ESD2 that we work with quite frequently. So.
Fantastic. You guys look great. Thank you for being here tonight. Whereas in June of 2007, the United States Senate passed a resolution creating National First Responder Appreciation Day to honor and celebrate the contributions and sacrifices made by all first responders in the United States. And whereas the men and women who serve as firefighters are worthy of recognition for their courage, heroism, and concern for the welfare of the communities they serve, regardless of peril or injury to themselves, and whereas thousands of firefighters, both career and volunteer, risk their lives every day to make our communities safer through such efforts as search and rescue operations, hazardous materials response, fire prevention and safety education, and responding and treating a variety of life-threatening emergencies, and whereas the firefighters make the ultimate sacrifice to protect the citizens they serve, whether danger is the result of natural or man-made disasters, as witnessed by fire suppression deaths and other contributing causes. Now, therefore, I, Connie Schrader, Mayor of the City of Bastrop, do hereby proclaim May 4th as Firefighter Day in Bastrop. Let's have a round of applause for these folks. Colin, can you get everybody, or do they need to scooch up? Okay, act like you like each other. Thank you, guys. Let's give them another round of applause. I probably embarrassed him, but Chris Spooner's family, so he gets a hug, and he is also a third-generation firefighter for the City of Bastrop. So, very proud of him. Okay, I'm now on item 4C. And Trey, I know you're here. Do you have anybody here for Arbor Day? All right, Parks Department, come on up. You have to stay here through it all. Whereas Arbor Day is observed throughout the world in many languages and cultures, and whereas trees are a renewable resource providing us with paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products, and whereas trees provide environmental benefits by providing shade for people in our buildings, removing air pollution, abating stormwater runoff, and providing wildlife habitat, and whereas trees in our town increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our parks and streets, and whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and enjoyment, now, therefore, I, Connie Schrader, Mayor of the City of Bastrop, do hereby proclaim April 27th as National Arbor Day in the City of Bastrop, and I do thereby encourage all citizens to cherish our trees and recognize their important role in the environment. Let's give these guys a round of applause. Okay, moving right along, we're on item 4D. Notice my sticker I voted today. Early voting is underway. 69 people voted yesterday. My husband and I were the first 2 people to vote today, so I know we're at least at 71, but I want to remind you all that we have over 7,000 registered voters, so 69 is not a great representation of that. So please get out and vote. You all got the cards in the mail, and I'm reminding you that on Friday, the polling place is open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., and also next Tuesday, it is open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., and the election day is Saturday, May 5th. The other thing I want to bring to your attention is the Pine Forest 6 press release. There was a joint press release between the county, BISD, and the city of Bastrop that was released to the press yesterday afternoon. And if you have any interest in Pine Forest 6, I encourage you to go to the city's website and you can read that full press release. So on to my mayor's report. I was pretty busy between March 29th and April 9th. This feels like 20 years ago. The middle picture is Easter sunrise service out at the Bastrop State Park. That was great. I did ribbon cuttings at Supreme Lending and also at the Playhouse, RC's Playhouse, which is out on 21, which is an indoor air-conditioned playhouse for those of you with small children. When it starts getting really hot, I think you will enjoy being out there. On the bottom right, where it says LCRA Steps Forward, there is a program called Steps Forward that the LCRA has, and there are a group of folks that came and they painted the pavilion, they cleaned up the barbecue, and they cleared brush so that you could get a better view of the river. And the reason that I took a selfie is the girl I'm standing with, she and I worked together when we both had just gotten out of engineering school. We worked at the same place. So it's a small world, and we reconnected, and she had called me and said, hey, I picked Bastrop because I was hoping we could get together and see each other. So that's a dear, dear friend of mine, Karen Bondi. My husband and I were at Spring Fling, where we nearly froze to death. The weather has been crazy this year. The upper right-hand corner, Bluebonnet Elementary kids did ABC books, and they were on display at the public library, and I was asked to go by and read some of the books and take a selfie and post because she's able to get a grant to help the kids with reading. So that's where I am at the library. On the left-hand side, I went to the Hope fundraiser that Mary Beth Scott has started. Judge Poppy presented the state of the county at the chamber luncheon, and next Wednesday I'll be presenting the state of the city at the next chamber luncheon. And in the bottom right-hand corner is just a sampling of the fun things that you can do on First Friday Art Walk here in Bastrop. There was some artwork going on out on the street, on Main Street, and I went by the Historical Society, and they were showing some of their archives and some of the things that they do to protect our history. If you go to the next page, these were all the things I was planning to do between that last picture and tonight. I think on this page I actually did everything except the early voting that started yesterday I didn't do until today, and I did speak at the Rotary lunch today, and we had an outstanding seminar, marketing seminar with the Deluxe Corporation, the folks that sponsored the Small Business Revolution. We had over 150 people, Sarah, is that right? And they said we were the 6th town that they had done it in. The top 10 towns got the marketing seminar, so they had already done 5 towns, and they were lucky to get 50 people at that seminar. So they were really pleased that we had so many people participate. At our next council meeting, you'll see pictures from some of this stuff, so I'm not going to talk about it too much. But if you go to the next slide, some things I need to tell you. The ribbon cutting that's scheduled for tomorrow for Family Heritage, that has been canceled. So if you were planning on seeing me there, you won't see me or anyone else. That is canceled. And I also want to add to this that on Saturday, April 28th, between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m., out in the parking lot, thank you so much, out in front of the parking lot of Tractor Supply, that's the annual prescription drug take back, because we all know if you've got drugs that you haven't used. This was particularly valuable to me after my father passed away and he had drugs that were left over. Please, 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 Trey begs you, we all beg you, don't flush them down the toilet. They need to be disposed of correctly, and the best thing to do is to take it to the drug take back. So it's a great time to dig through your cabinets, and if it's expired, it's not going to do you any good. So take it to them. That's a great place. That will be this coming Saturday from 10 to 2. Also this weekend, the MS 150 is going to be going through town, and they've got a different path, so you can look that up, but just be aware, either get out and watch them, and that's great, or stay home, but please don't call us and tell us that you're upset with the traffic, because we know, but they'll be coming through quickly, so it'll be okay. I will be going with Pastor Long to the Texas State Prayer Breakfast that is Monday morning, and the Seton groundbreaking is on Tuesday. That evening is the Bastrop Business Bash that's over at the Convention Center. If you haven't registered, please register for that. I already mentioned that I'll be speaking at the Chamber Luncheon. We talked about the National Day of Prayer. Hero Water Sports. There is a ribbon cutting on the 3rd, and that, I was talking to Logan the other day, and he assured me that it's for adults, but they just let the kids bring the adults, that he was really wanting us to all get out there and participate. Election Day is May 5th. Please, please vote. And then suddenly it'll be May 8th. And some of us appear to be looking forward to the last 2 meetings a little more than some of the others of us. So that is my mayor's report. With that, Councilmember Jones, you were last meeting, so I'd like to kick off with you.
Well, the Bastrop High School, several of the track team placed in the area meet, and they're moving to regionals this weekend in Houston, and we're really excited about that. So my guy's one of those.
Congratulations. Councilmember Ennis?
I don't have a report.
Mayor Pro Tem Schiff?
Nothing from me.
Councilmember Nelson?
Only on the 18th, there was a second of 2 public comment periods relative to our wheeled sports park complex, and we had a really good turnout. It was really nice to see some of those skateboarders show up out there and really provide really good input to what needs to go into to a skate park to make it successful. So it was enjoyable seeing them there.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes, Mayor. Just for the record, I voted yesterday.
And hats off to you, sir. That is awesome. That is awesome. You and 68 other people got it out of the way. So congratulations. That's wonderful. Okay, Councilman, we're on page 2. We're on the top of page 2. City Manager's Report. Ms. Humble. Nothing to report. We're moving on to work session and briefings. I'm on 5A, discuss the proposed ethics ordinance and receive public comment. Ms. Humble, you or Alan, who am I bouncing off to?
I don't really have a public briefing beyond what I've done the last 2 meetings, but we did want to post this for public comment, and I'm available for feedback from the council also.
I was going to say, everything I see is citizen comments. Okay, Connor, council, do you have any comments you want to make before we get citizen input? Councilmember Ennis?
I want to thank our city attorney for making some of the changes that we discussed last time.
Great, thank you, Councilmember. Any other comments, council? Okay, the first person I have signed up to speak is Connor McAnally. And Connor, I know you know this, but you have 3 minutes when you get to the microphone. And I'm sorry,
like I ever used the 3 minutes. Okay, so this will be really brief. Just want to thank the council and very particularly thank the city attorney for his diligent work on this. I've reviewed the latest draft. I think it's excellent, and I appreciate all the changes that have been made to take care of citizens' comments and those of council. Thank you very much.
Wow, you can talk on every item, Connor. Okay, Richard Kindred. Mr. Kindred says he is okay. Anybody else? Ethics ordinance, any comments? Anybody? Okay. Council, would you like, we can put it on for vote next time? How would you like to move forward?
I think we vetted this, and I think it's time to put it on for a vote.
Okay, is everyone in agreement with that? Okay, public, know that it will be posted for voting at the next meeting, and realize that when we're voting on something, just in case you think of something, we will still take citizen comments on that opportunity exists if people find anything. And I also know that our city attorney's been fantastic, as Mr. McAnally mentioned. If you've got some concerns or comments, please feel free to send them in, and we'll do the best that we can to address those. Councilmember Ennis, did you have something else?
I would like to say that if Mr. McAnally's happy with it, then that is a great benchmark.
All righty. Okay. 5A, 5A. Okay, I'm done with these. Okay. We are now at 6A, Staff and Board Reports. Presentation on the Quarterly Investment Report for the period ending March 31st, 2018. Ms. Waldron.
Good evening. This is the report for the period ending March 31st, 2018, and this is required as part of our investment policy for me to come to you each quarter and report on our investments. The portfolio book value has increased from last quarter by $83,000, and so our book value ending is approximately $27 million. Our distribution is 54% CD and securities, 43% in government pools, 1% in money market accounts, and 2% in demand deposits. And the report that you have in your packet has the detail, but I won't go over that unless I need to. And this is just a presentation.
Any questions from anyone? That you do a really good job of presenting this information in the packet. And for those of you in the public, if you don't normally look at the packet, I would encourage you to do that. It's very complete information available for everyone. Any other comments? Thank you very much, Ms. Waldron. We're now at item number 7, citizen comments. I have a number of people, and I've done my best to keep them in order, and I apologize in advance if I have failed on that. I see a number of new faces in the audience, and I also see some folks signed up that haven't normally signed up before. So I'd just like to remind everyone that there is a 3-minute time limit. Mayor Pro Tem Schiff will be keeping track of that. We won't start it till you get to the microphone. I know some people are nervous with public speaking. Just take a deep breath. It's going to be fine. So I'm glad to see some folks that have signed up. I want to draw to your attention the middle of page 2 of the agenda and remind everyone it is not the intention of the City of Bastrop to provide a public forum for the embarrassment or demeaning of any individual or group. Neither is it the intention of council to allow a member of the public to slur the performance, honesty, and/or integrity of the council as a body, or any member or members of the council individually or collectively, or members of the city's staff. Accordingly, profane, insulting, or threatening language directed toward the council and/or any person in the council's presence will not be tolerated. I know we're not going to have a problem, but I just wanted to make sure everyone understood the rules. The first person signed up to speak is Bill McLean, and I will remind you that if you don't speak into the mic, the people at home can't hear you, and it really causes problems, so move that mic around. And if you would also please state your name when you begin speaking, that would be helpful. Mr. McLean.
Evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Bill McLean. I am a land development and real estate lawyer from Austin. My clients are Clinton and Kenny Burns. They couldn't be here tonight, and I'm here on their behalf. I can't promise you I'll be as brief as Mr. McAnally, but I will observe the rules of decorum. I realize that 10B, the item that involves their mobile home park, is an executive session item, and I've known Mr. Borquez a long time, and I'm 100% confident that he'll be open and objective in any advice that he gives you regarding that matter. The Burns and I feel it's important to come here tonight and say a few words from their perspective. I feel that this is a critical juncture in this matter. First, I haven't talked to any of you. I've only talked to Alan and my clients on this matter, but I feel that there's a perception that my clients are not serious about addressing the city's concerns and allegations. I can assure you that they are, and I can assure you that as long as I'm involved, that I will encourage them to do what they can to address the situation. There were prior efforts that they made, significant efforts on their part to address this with staff previously. Those efforts resulted in the reduction of a proposed agreement to writing produced by the city that my clients were willing to sign, and that if signed and entered into between my clients and the city, I think would have resulted in this no longer being an issue. I don't know why that broke down or what the cause was, but I wanted to point that out. Second thing I want to point out, and this is the only time in my brief 3 minutes that I'm going to talk to you about the law, and not in a threatening way, but they have to balance the interests of the city and their property rights under state law. They want a safe park. They want a park that's good for the citizens. They want a park that's good for the city of Bastrop. The one thing about state law and grandfathering that I'll close with is there's a common misperception that anything having to do with health and safety exempts the city from grandfathering, takes the property owner out of the protections. And I would encourage you to explore that carefully with Mr. Borquez. Look at the true wording of the statute and the cases that address that, so that we can get to an objective and reasonable resolution on this matter.
Thank you, Mr. McLean. And I apologize if I said your name incorrectly. I have Vicente Gonzalez, Ben Gonzalez.
The council, Madam Mayor, I'm speaking here for Bastrop Estates Mobile Home Park also. We've been living, my wife and I have been living there for 13 years, and we've been managing that place for 2 years. And it's been claimed that it's been real not safe. The park is not safe. I don't see myself being there for 13 years. I have never seen anything with electrical, any dangerous with water or anything like that. Everything running smooth. The sewer sometimes was plugged up, but after the city cleared out there, it was clogged up at the city and at the streets. So they cleaned that out and it's doing good now. And here again, we've got some spots that are not filled in because when the trails moved out, we're not able to get permits to put some more in there. We had a couple, Hispanic couple that lived there for about 4 or 5 years. They moved out, they sold their mobile home, they were going to buy another one, and they came back, tried to get a permit. They would not allow them a permit. Didn't even give them an application to fill out for a permit. So there's no way for us to say anything about it now. And other than that, it's a safe place, clean place, no drugs. I watch that closely. And other than that, it's a safe place. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gonzalez. I appreciate that. Kay Rivetta.
I'm Kay Rivetta. I'm the receptionist here at Bastrop City Hall. I'm here to address a large elephant in the room. I'm addressing the council in support of Chief Steve Adcock's appeal process culminating from his abrupt wrongful termination initiated and executed by City Manager Linda Umble and HR Director Tanya Cantrell. He should be reinstated, compensated, and vindicated for the egregious act carried out against him. Destination City, hashtag my Bastrop. I'm going to change that to hashtag our Bastrop. Racial discrimination, however veiled, however subtle, is still racial discrimination and not how the city of Bastrop wants to be perceived as we strive to put Bastrop on the map as a destination city. The city secretary, my now wrongfully terminated son, and myself are and have been demeaned, degraded, and deemed as not having the capacity to do certain tasks, while other city employees, not of our race, are given opportunities and training and allowed to be inept in the task without consequences. Our duties here at the city have been demoted to step and fetch. Being in the employ of the city of Bastrop as a person of color under the management of Linda Umble has become a toxic and hostile environment. I have spoken to Mr. Nelson Linder, president of the NAACP, and I will file a racial discrimination lawsuit against the city of Bastrop. I'm asking the council to begin purging the implicit bias and veiled yet blatant racial discrimination by terminating Linda Umble as city manager. There are others who will follow in her wake, whom I will name at a later date. But Linda's termination will be an excellent beginning. Controversy, chaos, and discrimination can be found in her past cities. Google her: DeSoto, Rolette, Duncanville, Bastrop. Council, terminate Linda Umble. Allowing her to stay allows racism to live and thrive in Bastrop. Talk to us, the disenfranchised and wrongfully terminated convention center employee who would be filing his own suit, myself. At will termination, at Linda's will termination, step and fetch or be terminated. Terminate her. Hashtag our Bastrop.
Thank you, Ms. Rivetta. Richard Rivetta.
I would like to relinquish my time to speak to the previous speaker. Yeah, if you allow it.
I'm not aware of any policy or rule that allows people to pool or donate their time. They have the time they signed up for, and that's it.
Okay. Do you have anything you'd like to say, Mr. Rivetta?
Yes, I need to have the IT person come forward.
Mayor and council, if I can chime in, it's the policy and practice of the city of Bastrop that the videos that we display are those that are either invited on behalf of an agenda item, prepared by staff or the city's consultants. We don't open up that venue to members of the public.
Okay.
I don't know what this is, but it's not our policy to let citizens bring in matters for citizen comment period to be broadcast.
That haven't been vetted.
Slide. No.
It was a training video, and it was shown to the staff. And it's my understanding that a training video that was shown to the staff can be shown to the public.
If you want to submit that for city consideration, you're free to do so. It's not the city of Bastrop's policy to just upload whatever and play it on the overhead projector. That's not something we traditionally do.
So you're welcome to submit that if you would like to have that at a later meeting. Do you have anything that you'd like to say, Mr. Rivetta?
Nothing outside of doing that.
Okay.
That was it.
Okay, thank you. Richard Kindred?
I never thought I'd step into this. Good afternoon, everyone. One of the things I would suggest, I know you're keeping time there, I would suggest that we have a public display of time when we come up to speed?
We are working on that.
And a buzzer so we all can see?
Yes, sir. I appreciate that.
In order for disclosure. That last presentation, that just kind of took me to another area that I heard some pretty serious words there. And if people are working in fear and intimidation, I heard the word chaos. Fear and intimidation creates chaos. Chaos creates havoc. And havoc means I can't do my job. I'm standing up here today because I'm a supporter of the police chief that was, in my opinion, maybe wrongfully terminated. The same guy that sat on this end over here for months as the interim city manager or acting city manager, whatever title you all gave him. How did he fall from grace? So far from grace. He was the guy on the block and served with some of you same people. But now all of a sudden he can't do the job. I found this man to be a man that's approachable, that listens, that acts. He and I have exchanged emails. You can go and check the emails out. Me actually thanking him for one of his offices and the work that he helped me with. So I'm just kind of baffled. And then to hear, I came here to speak on his behalf, but then I hear this other, we have a problem. We have a problem right here in this building. And I encourage you council members, it's time to get busy. There are some strong accusations that were made. And it's going to cost you some money. And what I would do, and if you got something that you need to get out, put it on Facebook. Be done with it. You tried to give them an opportunity.
Mr. Kindred, I need you to speak into the mic, please.
I'm asking her, because whatever she wanted to show, even though I've seen other presentations given right here using the same device, I'm asking her to just put it on Facebook because she gave you all the opportunity to try to do it the sensible way. But maybe if she broadcasts it on Facebook, maybe we can get it out there. But I'm really concerned now. I'm seriously concerned. I looked at the Art Center article that's out there. 260 citizens have commented on the way business is being conducted here at City Hall. My last 30 seconds, I encourage you all to do an environmental assessment for all city staff. I ask you all to get an independent third party to conduct an environmental assessment of the work relations here at this city for every city staff person. I encourage you all to do that. Find the money, get a consultant, take the survey, get the feedback, and deal with your city manager. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kindred. Reverend Robert E. Wellington, Sr.
Good evening. I'm Reverend Robert Wellington, Senior Associate Minister at Mount Rose Missionary Baptist Church and one of the chaplains for the Bastrop Police Department. I'm here to give my support for the reinstatement of Chief Adcock and to show moral support for our officers. Good men and women fall. We all make mistakes, but the Lord holds us up instead of whacking us. I remember when there was an uneasiness in Bastrop when Rodney Reed was days away from being executed. It was Chief Adcock that was out in front, reaching out to the community through town meetings, trying to build the bridge of communication, being proactive, and we should not become complacent. Just like unrest happens in the big cities, it can happen in small town Bastrop. Having a chief that the community has seen as having a willingness to listen, to be a great asset to us all. We ask so much of our officers, and they are under such scrutiny when morale is low because of the removal of their leader. It's just one more challenge to deal with. I have full confidence in the men and women of our police department that they will continue to be the professionals that they have been trained to be, regardless of who the chief is. I pray the council will reconsider its decision concerning Chief Adcock and the assets he brings to our city and police department. I thank the city council for its time and consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Reverend Wellington. Connor McAnally.
Conor McAnally, 1505 Main Mayor Council. Today we were honouring our first responders, and I can think of no better first responder than our Chief, Steve Adcock. I have known him for some time now. I believe him to be a man of extraordinary integrity. He's a man of courage, of conviction, of commitment, and of charisma. He's a dedicated public servant. I had the honour of training alongside him with in one of those simulations that police officers have to do to encounter the situations they encounter on a daily basis. And it was an extraordinary thing, because a situation that these guys are facing every single day of their lives can turn in a heartbeat and become deadly. And I was extraordinarily impressed by the Chief's courage, his coolness, and frankly, his ability to shoot straight in very difficult circumstances. And it gave me a real appreciation of the difficult job that all our first responders do, and it gave me a real appreciation of him as a leader of those people. And so I just want to say that I have never in my life heard a bad word about the guy, and I respect him enormously. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McAnally. Jeffrey Voigt. Jeff Voigt.
My name is Jeff Voigt. Thank you for your time, Mayor, City Councilman. I've owned and operated a business in this town for over 22 years. I recently sold that business, but I still own 2 pieces of commercial property in this town. I've been active in this town and community that I do call home. I've seen many changes and a lot of growth in the city. I've worked with the Downtown Business Alliance. I've worked with the Bastrop Citizens Police Academy under the leadership of Chief Bill Anderson. I worked with City Manager Jeff Holberg when the city was trying to bring the movie theater and entertainment center in when we had driveway issues. I may not be a citizen of the city of Bastrop, but I do call Bastrop home. I was recently working with the city and the former city engineer, Wesley Brandon, on getting a public utility easement that was put into place after my current building was already in place. This happened when the theater came in. We were moving forward to a solution when he left. The question that the City Council should be asking and the Mayor should be asking is, why are we losing this type of talent? I know the official reason was that he was moving to bigger and better things, but I really don't think that's the true answer there. We need to be asking ourselves, why can't we retain this type of talent? The question that each City Council and the Mayor should be asking is, why do we have so many open positions in the city, specifically leadership positions? We have not grown too large for our City Council and our Mayor not to be able to talk and get reality check from the city employees who work for this great city. Maybe you should be reaching out to some of those city employees and finding out what's really going on in your city. You have to ask yourselves, do we have a hostile work environment here? Are we taking care of the people who work and serve our city? Why cannot we retain and recruit new talent? This brings me to my final question. Why are we letting one of the best police chiefs leave the service of this city? We've had so many great people serve in this capacity. Well, some I won't say was so great, but they've served. But he has been one of the best police chiefs that have ever served in this capacity. He's done more for our department and the morale of this department than I've seen in the past 22 years. I cannot recall a time when our police department has had no real public problems, such great leadership, and such great officers. The council and the mayor should be asking themselves, what is the real issue here? Has anyone on the council ever had a reason to question the leadership of Police Chief Adcock? This is the question you should be asking. The council should support him as a city. The council did support him as a city interim city manager, and he had great reviews. The city cannot be affording to lose such great talent.
Thank you very much, Mr. Voigt. Tan?
Hello, Mayor, council members. Name's Wood Tantaxnanuki, I go by Tank. I'm a resident here in Bastrop for the last 22 years. I'm married to Lisa Castle, who's fourth generation Bastropian. I've been in law enforcement for 27 years now. I serve on the City Ethics Committee. Thanks for your hard work to the City Attorney. I also serve on the Bastrop PD Community Outreach Program that was developed by Chief Steve Adcock. That program is it provides transparency to our community. It's a program that other departments have looked to, that have reached out to Bastrop PD so they can implement the program in their communities as well. Bastrop PD and the officers here that make up the department, it's about relational policing. It truly is about that. It's about coming out here in the community, getting to know the community, and working with community in that aspect. They're not crime fighters. Crime fighters are the problem in today's law enforcement. These are relational policing is what we have here in Bastrop, and that was developed under Chief Adcock. I made some phone calls around to friends that work for the city. I've been here long enough to work on the city side and our public safety personnel. And I've never witnessed anything like I have now with the fear of retaliation, and I don't know where that stems from, if it's from the elected officials, from the city manager, or from the department heads, but there's a dynamic change in the culture of our city workers, who are our most valuable assets here. I would put our city workers and our first responders up against any other city that are neighboring cities right now, and we know they're our most valuable assets. We also know that happy workers are productive workers, and right now the sense is there's a lot of fear out there amongst our city workers, and I don't know where that's coming from. I'd just like to see a show of hands of the supporters that are here for Chief Adcock today. I think you can see from the cross section of our community, in light of law enforcement and what we're going through, and the climate that we're going through today, when you have folks from the minority community, from all parts, all segments of our community here in Bastrop come up here to speak on behalf of Chief Adcock. Lastly, I'd just like to thank Chief Adcock for your service. I know your officers love you. It's been a great honor to serve under your leadership. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kane. Kay McAnally. Kay McAnally.
Mayor, council members, I'm Kay McAnally, 1505 Main Street. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I simply want to talk about the man I know, Chief Adcock. I found him to be a person of unquestionable integrity. I was on city council when he arrived and took over our police department. To be honest, the department was in a very bad state at the time. Through a series of circumstances, the department had been through a lot of leadership changes in a short space of time, and morale was very low. He took the department in his arms. He embraced it, motivated it, reorganized it, and injected it with enthusiasm, professionalism, and accountability. He took the city in his arms. He did the same thing. As a council member, I never heard a negative word about Chief Adcock, and that is unusual. Council members hear a lot of complaints about department heads, some justified, some not. But not a word of criticism ever came to my ears about Steve Adcock, not one. I am truly grateful for his service. I am happy to see so many people here who agree with me. Thank you all for speaking up. I am very, very sad to see Chief Adcock go.
Thank you very much, Ms. McAnally. Kelly Gilliland.
She got stuck at work. May I speak in her place?
Yes, sir, you can, but I need you to go fill out a...
I'm sorry, she just... Okay, sorry.
If you'll fill out a deal, I'll call your name. So the next person is Barbara Atkins.
Madam Mayor and council members, this is not something I do lightly. It is something that I know I have to do. You have no idea what a treasure you have in Chief Adcock. I first met him when I went to one of the town hall meetings when I came to Bastrop. And as a military wife, we moved a lot. And I always tried to get active in the community. And I tried to start with the police department. Because if I knew that I could trust them, I could trust everything in the city. And Chief Adcock was right there. There were so many people at that meeting who were so angry. He never lost his cool. He always kept eye contact. He always stepped within the law. And by the time that meeting was over, there was not one person that was angry leaving. They may not have liked what he told them, but they could trust everything he said. The second time I met Chief Adcock was when we had our bus accident. And I prayed for strength. I knew I needed guidance. And God sent me Chief Adcock. And he was there every step of the way. I didn't know what to do. I'd never gone through that. I didn't know what to say. And he was there. And he was my rock. He got us through. I knew the waters were rough. I'd never done that before. He'd tell me, you know, I'll help you. What do you want me to do? We had to make an announcement, a TV thing. I had never done that. And he said, if you want me to do it, I will. And I knew that his way was saying, Barbara, I trust you to do this. And I knew he was right there and would not let me falter. The next day, he came in and talked to our members. He provided chaplain support for us. He made arrangements when the bus brought 8 people home to make sure that they got safely to the bank. He invited me on the bus with him to let the people know they had supporters there, not people gawking at them, that the police were there to guide them safely to their vehicles. Yes, the press was there, but that day didn't have to talk to the press, and that we were there to help them. I can't tell you how many times people have said, thank that man, thank that police officer. I was so nervous, I was so scared, and he took that all away from me. 2 days later, we had Mariano, who took a van and brought it back from Biloxi with 2 people in it. Chief Adcock and I worked on getting him here in time, and he and his wife went over to the house of one of those members to make sure they were not alone when they came in. And he allowed me to go and visit with the others. And this is wrong. We need to reinstate him. And the other thing I honestly don't understand is this at will that I'm reading in the paper. I've spent 34 years in personnel, human relations, and benefits, and I have never heard of anything like this in my life. We need to reinstate him. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Atkins. Doc Jackson?
Good evening, Mayor and Council, City Manager. I am Doc Jackson. I live at 163 Tahitian Drive. I'm a 5th-generation Bastropian. And as you know, I have sat where you're sitting as a council member. I was on the City Council when Chief Adcock was hired. And I had the pleasure of actually serving with 7 police chiefs here in Bastrop. From Chief Powell to Chief Duncan to Chief Board, Chief Anderson, Interim Chief Wagner, Chief Blake, and then Chief Adcock. I rank him up there with the highest of all of them because he has done so much work in this community that has brought us together. He's not only brought our police department together, but he's brought the community together. When he came into town, there was such chaos in not only the department, but in the community and in the country. But he put together a committee to speak with the citizens and got the citizens, the black, the brown, the white community coming together to make sure that the things that were happening in other cities would not happen in our community, in our Bastrop. I was so impressed with the way that he coolly and calmly brought the citizens together, brought the police department together to make sure that that leadership was shining through. And I am here to support him 100%. I am and I must admit I'm a little emotional now, especially after hearing the other things that I'm hearing are happening at City Hall, and I will be back to address those at another time. But I support his reinstatement, and I hope that you as council members will seriously consider this, because this is something that we need to really discuss in this community. As you can see by the outpouring of the people from law enforcement, from all segments of our community, the man has done a wonderful job in this community and demands our respect, and we need to keep him there so that he can keep our community safe and keep us together. I plead with you to please consider all the options that you can with him, because he has done a great job. And I just can't see, because I'm not there where you're sitting, I don't know what else has happened. But I do know that he is a man of integrity, he's a man of honesty, he's a man that I would trust my life with. And I have for this past several years as he's been our police chief. So please take seriously into consideration this decision that's being made. It affects our future, his future, and it's a very important decision. It's probably one of the most important decisions you as council members and mayor will make. And I beg that you please take this seriously. And again, thank you, Chief Adcock, for all of your service. It's been definitely appreciated, as you can tell by the outpouring of love from the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Lisa Patterson.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I came here tonight to expressly thank Chief Adcock for your wonderful service to this community. I have had nothing but wonderful experiences in every interaction I've had with you and your department. And I want to say how wonderful it's been to work with you for these last few years. And I wanted to say that I find this whole situation regrettable seems to be an understatement. And while I initially intended to simply come and thank Chief Adcock and ask that you reconsider his termination, from what I've heard, I think this might be a symptom of a larger problem that this community is facing. And I would remind council that you were elected to govern, and I would ask that you not abdicate that responsibility and that you would take it very seriously, not only in the instance that's before us tonight, but in some of the complaints we've heard brought forward, and I thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Patterson. Steve Adcock? Mr. Adcock does not want to speak. Debbie Moore?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I want to echo some of the sentiments that some of the previous speakers have made. One being the community outreach that Chief Adcock instituted both in the African American and in the Hispanic communities when tensions were very high. He reached out to them, he let them know that he cares, and it helped calm the waters a great deal. On a personal level, I've worked closely with Steve Adcock on the Film Commission. A lot of times I would ask him at the last minute, can we do this or that or the other? He never, at least outwardly, got aggravated with me. He understood that sometimes things turn on a dime, and he always got them done. He's always been professional, and the men and women under his leadership have always been courteous and professional to the nth degree. And I want to thank him, and I want to thank my friend Steve Adcock, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Greg Gilliland?
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Greg Gilliland. I'm speaking for myself and for my wife, not for Brian Christopher Gertz, your elected DA, or any member of the District Attorney's Office or the District Attorney's Office itself. These are my opinions. I live in this town. For 13 years, I've been fighting crime in this town. I did not have an effective partner during the last several years of David Board's reign. David was a wonderful man who got caught up in issues bigger than himself. Chief Adcock came in and changed the entire direction of the department, the entire morale of the department. All of a sudden, I see police officers on my street 4 or 5 times a day, whereas before I had seen none. You're setting a prerequisite, or excuse me, a precedent here. You're scaring off every future professional, not just the police chief. And I told James Allkelt tonight, this is your future right here. And that's what you're giving them. That's the message you're sending this community. There's many professionals in this community who are highly educated about law enforcement. You've heard Tank, who is a very recognized expert police officer, former head of the Austin Police Officers Union. You saw the man nearly in tears. I have nothing but anger. Google Steve Adcock. He's heralded on the internet. Google Miss Humble. You know what you find. You've seen it on Facebook. Citizens deserve to know, and I apologize for that, Miss Humble, but it's the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Citizens deserve to know who made this decision. Did this originate in executive chambers, or did it happen with her and you're backing her up? That's what we want to know. She said you did it. We hadn't had any riots here, as opposed to the rest of the nation, when we had the racial issue of Rodney Reed and the most unfortunate murder, killing of Yvette Smith. That was due to the outreach program that Steve Adcock worked with these other gentlemen who've testified here tonight. That's why we didn't have Charlottesville. That's why we didn't have another Missouri. Is because Steve was out on the street working proactively with community leaders. I ask you to reconsider your decision, and if nothing else, give this man the same severance pay you're giving Miss Humble, who has fired a beloved and the best police chief I've known in my life, and I've known well over 100. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gilliland. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak during citizen comments that hasn't been given an opportunity? I need you to come fill out a piece of paper, and then we'll be happy to hear you. If you want to bring the paper forward, you can say your name, and if you'll just promise to fill it out and leave it with the city secretary, I would appreciate it.
Mayor, council, my name is Greg Coy. I've lived in this town for a long time. My family has, the Cervantes family and the Waters family. More importantly, I don't want to speak more about Chief Adcock. I think everyone, his fruits are known, but for his wife, I think that's hard. What I look to see is I live beside a policeman, and I see this when he comes home, he's happy. A leader represents people he brings up front. A leader doesn't stand up front. A leader brings people up front. I'm on the staff with Brother Tank to represent the Hispanic community. And in the Hispanic community, we have a voice, and Chief allowed that to happen. He opened up a door that a door was closed. I'm asking you to reinstate that door. The Bible says pride goes before destruction. In this firing was there pride. It's okay to, sometimes we hire the wrong people and sometimes we fire the wrong people. But I think sometimes we can make a decision right and it'll affect the community by saying, you know what, as a staff, we can make a better decision, and it's not only open up for him, but it's going to open up the community to bring grace into this community, to take away the tension and the anger. I'm not here to represent Chief. I think he has a good lawyer himself. That's the good Lord. The good Lord's going to work it all out. But I think today we can make a difference right now by saying, hey, you know what? We can make a difference in our community as a group. It's not an I thing. It needs to be a we thing. I don't think it's Chief. I think Chief is the one that good Lord is using to bring peace into the land. That's why he's an officer. He doesn't represent just his people. He represents the whole city of Bastrop. And the whole city of Bastrop, I would believe, is standing behind him. So I appreciate you that you did open it up, but I do think it's okay to say, hey, you know what, we can reinstate him. That doesn't mean you're wrong or anything. It just says, hey, you know what, I think we can make a difference. We make bad decisions as dads sometimes. And sometimes as a dad, I have to humble myself to my children. And humbleness is going to bring peace to this land. I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Coy. Please fill out the paperwork for the city secretary. I very much appreciate that. Anyone else? Okay, we're moving on to the consent agenda. Madam Secretary, if you'll read the consent agenda. Oh, I'm sorry. Does any council member want any consent agenda item pulled? I don't see any. Does anybody in the audience want any consent agenda item pulled? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, if you'll please read the consent agenda.
The consent agenda reads as follows. Item 8A, consider action to approve City Council minutes from the March 24th, 2018 Water Wastewater Workshop and April 10th, 2018 regular meeting. Item 8B, consider action to approve resolution number R2018-30 of the City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, accepting a right-of-way dedication of 5 feet for Childers Drive along the east property line of Bastrop Station Addition, Lot 2, located at 300 West State Highway 71, within the city limits of Bastrop, Texas, as attached in Exhibit A and establishing an effective date. Item 8C, consider action to approve resolution number R2018-29 of the City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, approving the authorization and recordation of a release of judgment in the matter of Warren v. Clampett, cause number 18852, as attached in Exhibit A, and establishing an effective date. This concludes the consent agenda.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, happy to hear a motion.
I move to approve all items on the consent agenda.
I have a motion to approve from Mayor Pro Tem.
A second.
And a second from Councilmember Jones. This is to vote to approve all the items on the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Schiff.
Yes.
Councilmember Jones.
Yes.
Councilmember Ennis.
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson.
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. We're now on the top of page 3. Item 9A, consider action to approve the creation of the Cultural Arts Master Plan Task Force to coordinate with Go Collaborative during the development of the Cultural Arts Master Plan. Ms. O'Brien.
Mayor, Council, earlier this year you all granted authority to Bastrop Art and Public Places to appoint a temporary committee to oversee the selection of a consultant for the Cultural Arts Master Plan. That consultant, whose contract you approved recently, Go Collaborative, has requested that that temporary committee remain temporary but be a little more long-term than originally intended and help her oversee the project over the course of the project timeframe, which is anticipated to be completed at the end of November. I do want to admit a mistake that I made. The Main Street Board Representative Dick Smith was accidentally left off your agenda information, so you all know I paid for that greatly. He's just always at top of mind, so I guess I forgot him. Yes, so I apologize, Mr. Smith. There were 2 representatives. The Visit Bastrop original representative has some time commitment issues, and so Naseem Kansari, who serves on the Visit Bastrop board and has been really involved with First Friday Art Walk, has agreed to serve on the committee, and BISD would like to split the duties between the Fine Arts Director, Chico Portillo, and then the new Athletic Director, Andy Sexton, so it's not as much of a time constraint. Be happy to answer any questions you all may have.
So just for clarification, this is approving the creation of a temporary task force. The idea is that it's really to just be a sounding board for the consultant. So it's not a new long-term board, it's a temporary thing, and we're expecting it to be done by the end of the year.
Correct.
Hopefully November.
And it will cease to exist as a task force when the plan is presented to council. But the consultant wants to make sure that they get broad-based input from the community, and so she wants to leave that segment of all of the different groups and entities involved.
Council, do you have any questions for Ms. O'Brien?
Thank you.
Would love a motion.
I move to approve.
I have a motion to approve the creation of a temporary task force. Looking for a second.
Second.
I have a second from Councilmember Peterson. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Councilmember Ennis?
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
Councilmember Jones? Councilmember Jones?
Excuse me, yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Schiff?
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, council. We're now on item 9B. Councilmember Jones and Councilmember Ennis have recused themselves since they live in homes that are a part of this ordinance. So they'll be leading the dais until we get to 9C. 9B, consider action to approve the second reading of ordinance number 2018-03 of the City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, amending the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 14, titled Zoning, Article 14.03, titled Historic Landmark Preservation, and adding Appendix A, titled Fee Schedule, Section A 14.01.003, titled Fees for Historic Landmark Preservation, as attached in Exhibit A, providing for a penalty for the violation of this ordinance, providing a repealing clause, providing a severability clause, and providing an effective date. Ms. Spills.
Good evening. So this item is the update to the historic landmark preservation section of the zoning ordinance. Just last time we went over more of the specifics within the code that we're changing. At the section that I was given direction to come back with some changes to was the incentives for historic landmarks section. Just to kind of refresh for new people or people watching, this section provides a monetary incentive as a refund of property taxes to people who have their house designated as a historic landmark that have gone through that process. The code is changing a little bit in that instead of locking down an amount, it'll be set by council in the yearly budget and then divided out based off of the percentage of the value of the property that is considered historic on each lot. After first reading, staff was given direction to come back with some language for what constitutes proper maintenance to continue receiving that incentive. I met with the chair of the HLC and we went over some standards other cities use and trying to put it in some kind of basic language that everyone can understand. And we came up with these categories that I included in the staff report, some basic language on how roof maintenance, exterior walls, foundations, exterior doors, windows, porches, stairways, accessory structures, fences, entertaining walls, landscaping, decorative features. Things that are easily observable from the street, missing bricks, missing panels, all those kind of things that are fairly easy to determine. And if determination is made, the homeowner will be given written notice and 30 days to bring that into compliance before it'll be deemed that they don't receive the incentive for that year.
Mayor and Council, if you will recall, the concern here was that staff would be put in a position without some guidelines. I visited with the chairman, and I think that with these standards, if they want to appeal staff, I believe that happens at the Historical Commission.
It happens at council.
Okay. As far as being denied.
Mm-hmm, yes.
Okay. We asked the question about whether or not somebody from the committee would participate before a final ruling would be made.
And so that's one of the things we looked at. Most of the members of the Historic Landmark Commission also receive incentives, so there may be some inherent conflicts of interest in them being part of the subcommittee. And so what I have drafted in the code, and that I'm open for suggestion if this isn't preferable, is to have it be a committee of city employees, 3 staff that are all involved in various steps of code enforcement. So the Historic Preservation Officer, which should be familiar with historic preservation and those guidelines, a building official that enforces the building code, and then our code enforcement official who enforces the property maintenance code. And all 3 of them would have to agree on the items that are disqualifying a homeowner.
Personally, Ms. Bills, I thought that was a great addition, and my understanding, and I thought what council had directed, was that we didn't want it to be arbitrary and on the shoulders of one person to say, gee, you're not compliant. So we also didn't want to have people crawling through literal crawl spaces or digging around in somebody. We don't need to do all of that. So my understanding is that the three of you could go out in one car, or people could make a drive-by, and it's the perception of what a citizen would see from the street is the building being maintained at a level that's appropriate compared to their neighbors, and with some pretty specific standards, with the idea that you don't have a big hole in your roof, or you don't have shutters that are hanging, or whatever. It seems that when the three of you agree, then the person's contacted. They have 30 days to come into compliance. If they do, you guys go out and take another look, then they get their check and they rock and roll. If it becomes a sticky wicket, it comes to council, and I understand why that happens. Council, do you have any questions for Ms. Bills on that process?
I think this looks really good.
Do you have one more, or is that your
last
last
slide?
slide?
I was just, the Historic Landmark Commission and both the Planning and Zoning have reviewed the previous draft minus these additions and recommended approval.
Have you had an opportunity to visit with anybody at Planning and Zoning about this addition?
No.
I have not received any phone calls. Council, have you? I feel like this is filling out kind of the spirit of what they approved in there. Yeah. So just a reminder to the audience, we are able to talk about this with two people recusing themselves. Although I do not vote, I am part of the quorum, so we have a quorum of 4, but it takes 3 people to vote for anything to pass. Just like if we were at a full council, it takes 3 people for something to pass. So this is an item that would require unanimous. So if you have any more questions for Ms. Bills?
Move to approve.
I have a motion to approve from Councilmember Nelson, and I have a second from Mayor Pro Tem Schiff. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, if you please call the roll.
Councilmember Nelson?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Schiff?
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
That's a unanimous 3-4, so the item passes, and Councilmember Ennis and Councilmember Jones will rejoin us, and I'll wait for them to return to the dais before I read the next item. All right, thank you, Councilmember Jones. Okay, we are on item 9C, about a third of the way down on page number 3. Consider action to approve resolution number R2018-27 of the City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, to enter a contract for the purchase through the buy board of an emergency generator to Waukesha Pierce Industries Incorporated in the amount of $81,329 as attached in Exhibit A, authorizing the city manager to execute all necessary documents, providing for a repealing clause, and establishing an effective date. Mr. Job.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is pretty straightforward. This is just a picture of what that generator would look like. So the shelter that we're building is near completion, and we took it to bid. We actually came in at about 1.1 million, a little under. The original amount was for 1.6, so we have some extra funds left over. Rather than paying a 20% markup and running it through the current contract, we just went to buy board, and we're going to purchase it for this $81,000. However, over $50,000 has to be brought to council for the city manager to sign.
Okay, so the party left out, and although it's in the packet, is it's diesel generated, and it's a way for us to maintain power at the shelter.
This one is actually propane.
Is propane?
Yeah, or natural gas.
It doesn't need electricity. In case all goes bad, they'll have electricity there.
That is correct.
That's where we are. Any questions? And it's coming to us because of the value, right?
Correct. Because it's over 50,000, has to.
I move to approve this purchase.
I have a motion to approve from Mayor Pro Tem Schiff. Can I have a second?
I had a question.
Can I have a second, and then we can have discussion?
Second.
I have a second from Councilmember Ennis. Discussion, Councilmember Ennis?
What is the buy board?
I'm sorry, it's a purchasing cooperative. So the state basically vets different cooperative purchasing locations or different boards, things of that nature?
The state bids it so we don't have to.
Correct. So they've already done all the RFP work, and it's all in one place, and cities and school districts can go out and purchase off of those types of cooperative purchasing websites.
It's legal eBay for a government.
That's correct. There you go.
Great, my second still stands.
All righty. Any further discussion? Okay, Madam Secretary, if you'll please call the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Schiff,
Yes.
Councilmember Ennis,
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson,
Yes.
Councilmember Jones.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously. I'm now on 9D. Consider action to approve resolution number R2018-28 of the City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, awarding a contract for the repainting of the 1 million gallon standpipe, 250,000 gallon elevated tank located at Loop 150 facility, and the 500,000 gallon ground storage tank at Willow Treatment Plant location to Tri-States Coatings Incorporated at a cost of $115,000 as attached in Exhibit A, authorizing the city manager to execute all necessary documents, providing for a repealing clause, and establishing an effective date. Mr. Joe.
Thank you. Thanks again, Mayor and Council. I'll just do another picture up there so everybody knows the tanks we're talking about. Pretty standard and straightforward stuff. We have to have these inspected every year. It's time to do some maintenance. We've sent out for RFP. Actually, I will point one thing out. This company was not the lowest bidder. They were actually just a tad bit higher, but they did submit a complete package and the other did not. So that's why we went from the 111 to the 115,000.
And that is shown in the documents that's in the packet, because he knows I look, and I'm sure all of you guys did as well. But they were not, the apparent low bidder is, I'm sure, how it was opened, and then when they don't fill out all the proper documents, then their bid's thrown out.
That is absolutely correct.
I do have a citizen signed up to speak. Council, do you have any other questions for Mr. Joe? Councilmember Ennis?
Mr. Joe, where is this in the line item of the 2018 budget?
It was actually, has already been budgeted in a capital line item for the department, so it's already funded as of this year.
Okay.
Yes. It's in the water
it's in
treatment
the water
section of the budget, yes.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Councilmember Ennis. Any other questions? Councilmember Peterson?
Just a quick question. Is this for the exterior only?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Any other questions? Councilmember Jones?
Are these tanks, going to be replaced soon? I mean, where are they in their course of their life? Are they giving us problems? Or is this just...
This is just some standard maintenance. They have to be painted about every 10 to 15 years, depending on weather conditions. And this one will actually have a nice new city logo, and it'll be nice and shiny for people as they come into town off of 21.
Any other questions? Councilmember Ennis, you have your mic on? Okay. All right, I have a citizen signed up to speak. Connor McAnally. Don't go far, Trey. We may need you.
How you doing, Council? Just one quick thing. These are at Mayfest Park. There's no signposting whatsoever anywhere in the city for Mayfest Park. It's the one park we know nowhere anybody can find because there's no signposting for it. There's an opportunity here to put Mayfest Park on one of these. And could you spend a few extra, Bob, and make sure that we know where one of our important city parks is, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McAnally. And again, you didn't use your 3 minutes. Thank you. Councilmember Jones?
That's a really good idea.
Councilmember Jones says that's a really good idea. So if anyone was so inclined to make a motion, they might want to make a minor adjustment to that motion and to include that.
I'd like to move that we look at painting some sort of designation. That we'll leave that up to someone else to decide how that'll look, but to designate that park, and if you could bring that back to us, that would be really, I think that would be a really valuable designation to put up there. So
just for Mayor Pro Tem Schiff, yes.
I think we should approve. You need approval of the contract, right, to get things moving?
Correct.
Would it make any difference? I mean, you're going to paint it to come back later and paint the sign on it
No, it wouldn't,
isn't going to
and it would be
change.
under the 25% limit that we're bound by, and I'm sure the city manager could just make that change. It'd all
City
be done.
manager, what do you think? Just approve it as
I
is?
think it's a great idea, and if y'all want it in the motion so it's not forgotten, that's fine.
Yeah, I think that would be good, if we can clarify the motion.
So the only thing I want to clarify is, do you want to approve how it says Mayfest Park, or are you willing to trust that to someone else?
I'd like to just trust that to the city and their staff and include it in this motion.
Okay.
And technically, it's not in Mayfest Park, but it's a good idea because it's close enough,
I don't
it won't
disagree.
matter.
I don't disagree, and there are some signage, just FYI. That's it. Thank you.
All right, I'm happy to take
Just to add to this, the county is going to be building their shelter and facilities, and they reference it as Mayfest Park, so to that point, it'll be a nice landmark.
Yeah, if it's ever open for a shelter, it'll help people who are not familiar with the area. They'll know where they're going. Thank you, Mr. McAnally. So anybody that would like to make a motion, that'd make me happy.
Never has a
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, we got a motion. Do we get a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay.
Just to make sure we're clear, we're approving the painting and we're instructing the city staff to...
We're authorizing the city manager to execute the change order?
A change order to paint the sign. Is that what you moved? Okay, I second that.
And are you doing it on both of them or one of them? You guys
It's the
decide.
manager's decision, not
Okay,
ours.
that's fine. Everybody clear on what, we're approving the $115,000, and we're knowing there will be a change order, which we expect to be very small, to add Mayfest Park as appropriate out there at Mayfest Park. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Councilmember Jones?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Schiff?
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson?
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes. Mr. McAnally, give a few extra Bob, whatever Bob is.
Councilmember Ennis?
Yes.
All right, we're on that passes unanimously. Thank you, council. We're on 9E, consider action to approve the first reading of ordinance number 2018-05, amending the budget for the fiscal year 2018 in accordance with existing statutory requirements, appropriating the various amounts herein as attached in Exhibit A, repealing all prior ordinances and actions in conflict herewith, and providing for an effective date, and move to include on the May 8th, 2018 City Council agenda for second reading. Ms. Waldron.
Good evening again. I'm bringing this budget amendment to you as a requirement of our city's financial management policy. It includes quite a few funds, so I will go through each one of them quickly. The general fund, we are using available contingency funds to buy some supplies and equipment that were not budgeted for the shelter and that are not covered under our grant funds, but are going to be needed in order to open it. Things like just the furniture and the appliances and things like that. Also supplies to equip it as a shelter. We've also reviewed the quarter for all of our general fund departments and have moved any salary savings over into the contingency fund. All of these adjustments did not affect fund balance. The vehicle and equipment replacement fund is, this is another amendment to add a few more pieces of needed equipment. There is available fund balance in this fund. We're looking to fund a truck for the water department, to use grant matching funds for servers that were bought for the police department, and this was for the camera video that we needed more servers, and we did get a grant, but this is for the match to that grant. And then we also are purchasing an extraction tool that fire was needing. And these adjustments do hit the fund balance, sorry. Bastrop Power and Light, I think you remember when Mr. Brandon brought to y'all an outdoor alternative lighting plan that Buc-ee's was asking your approval for. They have given us the $25,000 that was approved as part of that plan. This budget amendment just gives us that revenue and also gives Bastrop Power and Light the expense to go ahead and go out and purchase those LED lights. And so that amendment, there is no effect to fund balance on this amendment. The Water Wastewater Fund, we realized that the Well J permit is requiring for a fairly extensive hydraulic study, which was not budgeted in their fund, but is part of that permit, its requirement. And so this amendment is just increasing that line item so that we can cover that hydraulic study, and this is affecting fund balance. Hunters Crossing Public Improvement District, this amendment is increasing legal services. I'm hoping that this will increase it to get us to the end of the fiscal year on this. I also wanted to make a note in that fund that I've spoken with the city manager. We've discussed this fund. General fund will be needing to cover the shortfall for this fund until we can reevaluate the assessments. That will just be a balance sheet item where it will just be covering cash for this fund. And there will be a due to from created. And I have one more. I'm passing on an Economic Development Corporation budget amendment that was approved at their board meeting on April 16th. To increase the expenses for the development at 921 Main Street. And I believe that's it. Do you have any questions on any of those amendments?
I would like to suggest one change.
Okay.
On the Hunters Crossing PID item. I would prefer not to say until assessments can be increased. I would prefer for it to say something along the lines until repayment options can be identified. It just seems like it's an automatic assumption we're going to increase PID fees with all the activity that's going on. That perhaps we should look at other methods rather than identifying an increase in assessments. I think it'd be fair to the citizens out there.
Okay.
Any other questions for Ms. Waldron? To make that change, Ms. Waldron, does that need to be a part of the motion?
It's not part of the ordinance. And it's not part of the Exhibit A. It's just part of my staff report, so I don't believe so.
Okay. All right, council, if you don't have any questions, I'd be happy to take a motion.
I move to approve.
I have a motion to approve from Councilmember Ennis.
I'll second, and again, note that this is first reading.
And the motion would be, Councilmember Ennis, is your motion for it to be on consent for the second reading?
Yes. I'll second that.
I have a motion from Councilmember Ennis that ordinance 2018-05 be approved tonight for first reading and placed on the consent agenda on May 8th. I have a second from Mayor Pro Tem Schiff. Are there any questions or comments, discussion? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Councilmember Ennis?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Schiff?
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson?
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
Councilmember Jones?
The motion passes unanimously. Thank you, council. It is now 8:41. We will be going into executive session for items 10A and 10B. City Attorney, do I need to reread 10A?
No, Madam Mayor, just for B.
Okay, so we will be going back there to talk about 10A and 10B. City Council shall convene into closed executive session pursuant to Section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code to discuss code compliance and anticipated litigation with the City Attorney regarding 2505 Main Street. It's 8:42, and we are now in executive session. It's 10:15 and we're back in regular session. With regard to item 10A, are there any comments?
Yes, ma'am. We, the council, appreciate the public comments relative to Chief Adcock and his years of service to the Bastrop community. We hired our city manager to assemble a management team that she feels will provide the best possible service to this community. The City Council stands united in support of City Manager Umble and her decisions to best manage this city. Thank you, Mayor.
Council, is there any other comments? Seeing none, it is 10:16. We will go back into executive session to discuss item 10B that I read earlier. We are now in executive session. Okay, it's 11:07. We're back in regular session, and we are going to have some comments from the city attorney regarding item 10B.
Mayor and Council, item 10B is a code enforcement matter regarding the Piney Crossing Mobile Home Park. This is an issue that has been on the city's radar for many years. Documentation shows where the city has identified a number of public health and safety concerns, many of them that are quite crucial and important to the saving of lives and property. Those concerns have been communicated to the various property owners over the years. There's been discussions of plans of property owners fixing the infrastructure and upgrading it to a point of meeting our codes, but those concerns just keep continuing. So recently we engaged in a new dialogue with the current owners and their new lawyer about our concerns. And those concerns all stem from observations, firsthand reports regarding water utilities, wastewater utilities, electric infrastructure, and fire safety issues, implicating many provisions of the City of Bastrop's Code of Ordinances and also the national and international codes that we've adopted dating back into the 70s, which applies to this property. So our mission in pursuing this dialogue has been compliance. Get the property up to code so it's safe for those who reside there and visit the property, and also safe for the surrounding community. Things like water contamination and fire danger are important not just to the residents of that mobile home park, but everyone in Bastrop. So we've been trying to engage the property owners so they will put forth a plan to upgrade and fix the property. We've listed it as a litigation item today because if negotiations and cooperation fail, well, certainly we have code enforcement options, both the criminal and civil route, which we reserve those, but we hope not to have to utilize that route. You heard from the lawyer for the property today who spoke during citizen comment. It was very encouraging that the property owners are eager to cooperate and bring the property into compliance. That is our ultimate hope. And as we look at these codes that apply to this property, we are aware that they apply to other properties as well. And so we will be systematically looking at other properties and bringing to their attention of the owners or the occupants anything that we think is a danger to those that live there or those that are nearby. And you received a legal briefing about the facts and the law on this matter in executive session. This was a preliminary briefing. It's the first time that you've been briefed on this and the first time these facts have been brought to your attention. There was nothing that was presented in executive session, including my legal guidance, that would be inappropriate to share publicly. And so if you get questions about this, this may be an issue of vital public interest. I imagine your neighbors may be inquiring. There's nothing about what we discussed in executive session that I would recommend that you withhold. You're free to comment on that. You will not be jeopardizing the city's legal position in that regard. And so we will continue to work with the property owner, communicate with their attorney. We have plans. We've given several lists about what the problems are and tying that to the specific codes. Based on recent inspections, we are updating that list and we'll be providing that list to the property owners and their legal counsel in hopes that they can put forth a plan of addressing the property and the defects on that property. We'll keep you informed as we go through this. No city council authorization or approval is required. This was just a briefing and discussion item. I'm available for questions if you have any.
Council, do you have any comments or questions?
I just want to highlight one comment that you made, and that is a very detailed list of what we are specifically requiring is forthcoming.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Okay.
Any other council comments? All right. Oh, Mayor Pro Tem Schiff?
Yeah, I move for adjournment.
It's 11:11 and we are adjourned.